Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to solve the puzzle behind Platinum's recent and honestly pretty dramatic price surge.
So get this. In the 2025 calendar year, Platinum's price didn't just rise, it absolutely exploded. We're talking a 170% year-on-year jump, going from around $900 an ounce all the way up to a staggering $2,400.
And, platinum wasn't just riding a wave with other precious metals. As you can see here, it totally outperformed them. It left both gold and silver completely in the dust.
So what on earth is driving the price of this incredibly rare metal? Well, the simple answer is a classic economic squeeze. You've got super high demand crashing headfirst into an incredibly tight supply.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to look at what's fueling this insane demand. Then we'll dig into its really fragile supply chain. After that, we'll see how it stacks up against gold right now. And finally, we'll take a peek at what the future might hold.
So, let's kick things off with demand. You see, it isn't just one thing. It's really coming from four main areas. And a huge part of the story, as you'll see, is its critical role in industry.
The auto industry is in the driver's seat here, making up the biggest chunk at 36%. Right behind it, you've got industrial uses and jewelry. And then there's investment. It's a smaller slice of the pie, but trust me, it's a slice that's growing really, really fast.
So in cars, Platinum's super high melting point makes it perfect for catalytic converters. The things that turn nasty emissions into safer gases. Now, demand here has actually dipped a bit with the rise of battery-powered EVs. But here's the twist. Its future in hydrogen fuel cell vehicles looks huge. Some folks are predicting a six-fold increase in demand just from that sector alone.
Okay, driver number 2 is jewelry. And this sector saw a really big 7% jump in demand last year, hitting a level we just haven't seen in over 5 years.
And why is that? Well, it pretty much comes down to affordability. I mean, look at this. With gold prices soaring to nearly double the price of platinum, a lot of people, especially in North America, Europe, and China, started seeing platinum as the go-to for affordable luxury.
Now, industrial demand is a whole different beast. It's much more cyclical. And you can see that story play out perfectly with China's chemical sector. There was this huge spike in demand back in 2019 when a big investment cycle kicked off. But now, that cycle is cooling down, and demand is starting to fall right along with it. And finally, we have investment demand. Yeah, it's the smallest piece of the puzzle, but it has doubled in just the last couple of years. And this surge, it's almost entirely being driven by a massive wave of interest from investors in China. Okay, so with all this demand coming from all these different places, you're probably thinking, why not just mine more? Well, that brings us to the really serious supply problem.
The hard reality is we're in a deep and persistent supply deficit. That means for the last 2 years, the world has been using way more platinum than we've been able to pull out of the ground.
To really get why this deficit is happening, we have to ask a very basic but super important question. Where does all our platinum actually come from?
And the answer to that question reveals a major vulnerability. The supply chain is incredibly, almost dangerously concentrated. South Africa, by itself, controls about 70% of the entire planet's mined platinum. And if you want to see what that dependence looks like in the real world, just look at a country like India. They mine 0 platinum, and their import bill for the metal skyrocketed, a 10-fold increase in just 1 year. It really shows how vulnerable other nations are.
And to make matters worse, this super concentrated supply chain is getting hit by a perfect storm of problems right now. You've got severe weather in South Africa, the quality of the ore is declining, which makes mining harder and more expensive, and then there are the geopolitical tensions hitting supply from the world's number 2 producer, Russia.
So this intense tug-of-war between supply and demand has a lot of investors taking a fresh look at platinum, especially when they compare it to its more famous and, right now, more expensive sibling, gold.
You see, for more than 25 years, it was a given. Platinum was a more valuable metal. But then, 2011 happened. That was a turning point. Gold completely flipped the script, and it's been the more expensive of the two ever since.
And because of this historic role reversal, and especially when you remember all those critical industrial uses that platinum has, uses that gold just doesn't, a lot of market analysts are now saying, hey, platinum looks seriously undervalued right now.
So after putting all these complex pieces of the puzzle together, what's next? What does the immediate future look like? Let's check out the forecast for 2026. Okay, the forecast from the World Platinum Investment Council says supply is expected to finally go up a bit, mostly thanks to a jump in recycling. But, and this is the big but, total demand is actually expected to fall even more, led by a massive 52% drop in investment demand after those recent highs.
So what does that all mean? Well, for the first time in years, we might actually see a small market surplus. But, and I can't stress this enough, it is an incredibly fragile one. The whole thing depends more on demand falling than it does on supply surging. Any new shock to the system could easily push us right back into a deep deficit.
Which really just leaves us with one final big question to think about. Will platinum's unique and critical role in industry help it finally reclaim its historic price premium over gold? Or will the future just find new technologies and new materials to engineer our dependence on it away entirely?